Hello everyone, today we are going to start a new CS50 course, CS50 games. Okay, we are going to do the lecture 0 in which we are going to create the game Pong, right? I think you guys are familiar with this game in which you have two paddles and one ball in the middle, and the goal is not letting the ball pass your paddle or touch the right ball or the left ball depending on what player you are. So let's see how we can make Pong. Okay guys, so in Pong you have like a lot of ways to solve the game, right? You can change the color of the game, you can change the sounds of the game. But first of all, let's start setting up our environment, right? When we are coding Pong, Flappy Bird, and a big part of the games from CS50 games, we are going to use a different language which is called Lua, right? And in the language Lua, we should work as well with Love 2D, which is kind of a engine to running our game, right? So if you take a look in the lecture 0 here, Pong, you can see that right away we have installing Love 2D. And if we access this link in here, we're going to get into the website of Love 2D. And then you just have to download and install. For Windows, you can install this program. For Mac OS, you cannot install. It's just an executable. So when you download, you just extract the file and then you're going to receive this icon right here, Love. And then we can just tap and grab a folder, for example, these classes, into our icon Love, and then our game will be executed. But now let's go to our Pong 0. So before we start coding our game, in here we have a lot of Pongs. In this case we have like Pong 0, we have Pong 1, Pong 2 until Pong 12, I believe, 10, 12. And in each Pong we are going to implement something different in our game. For example, the paddles, and then the ball, and then the message, the collision with the paddles, the collision with the walls. And in each Pong we are going to implement this in the original project. We create actually each Pong at a time. So Pong 0 we code, and then we get the same code and change some things in Pong 1 and then Pong 2, Pong 3. But in our case we are not going to do this. We are just going to code everything inside of just one file, and we are not going to use object-oriented in this case, which is something a little bit more complex, in which you should create classes to the ball and the paddles, but we are going to understand some things about this later. So let's start. So here in VS Code, let's create a folder. Let's open here. I'm going to create here in Documents. I'm going to create Pong Full. Okay, Pong Full. Now let's open our folder. We have an empty folder here. Yes, I trust the authors. Let's create now main.lua. Okay. When we are calling a file the same way we have a problem1, for example, .py, we are going to have a problem, the name of the problem .lua. You can see that we have the icon here of the language Lua. To run our game in Love 2D, after all, we are going to have a file called main.lua. It cannot be called any other way. It should be main.lua. And our main code should be inside of this file. Okay, keep this in mind. And here in our main Lua is where we are going to code everything that we have. And now that we have main.lua, now we should click here in extensions in our VS Code, and you can search for Love 2D. Okay, and Love 2D support, you can install this extension, right? I have already installed here in my computer. You can install this extension. Is mandatory for those who are coding in Windows, because through this extension you can execute the Love 2D application to run your code. In the case of Mac OS, just like I said, you should just drag and drop the folder of your project inside of the executable from Love, okay? But install this extension and you are going to be able to run your code on Windows, okay? So now let's start coding part to part of our game. Right, so first of all, we're going to create our dimensions for our Canva, right? So we're going to start with window underscore width equals to 100, 2080, right? And window height, we are going to 720, right? So the basic dimension for an HD screen, right? And now we are going to create, oh sorry, here I put Windows, it's just window. And now we are going to create our functions from Lua. So we can start with function love.load. Okay, this function here is responsible to load all the kind of the back end of our game. Okay, because if we take a look here in CS50, we can see that we have a process, which is the input and then the update of the game and then the render of the game. And it's just the game. The game itself is actually a loop in which we have the input of the player. For example, if he taps the arrows or W or S to go up and down with the paddle, and then we update the code of the game, and then we render that in which we have to see in our screen, right? So in this case, love.load will be loading these commands for us, okay? So now we have our variables, window width and height, and then we can do love.window.setMode, okay? And then we can give the values of our window. I'm going to give you guys a lot of functions in this problem, in the Pong problem. The functions for themselves give a clue of what they do. In this case, we are going to set our window, the dimensions and the mode of our window. So first of all, we are going to give the dimensions that we stored in those variables right here. So we can put window width and then window height, okay? And now we can create some other configurations of our window. Let's open braces here. In this case, when we are opening braces, it's actually the same thing of a dictionary from Python, but in Lua. And then we can put some other information here. For example, full screen is going to be equals to false. We don't want our game to run at full screen. Then we can use resizable as well. We don't want our game to be resizable as well. And then the vsync we want to be true. Why we want the vsync to be true? Vsync runs for vertical syncing, right? And this is very important for our game, in which our pedals just move vertically, right? And now we can end our function for now, load, okay? In the end of each function, we have to end the function, okay? Now let's try to run our game. If you run, we should have a Canva at least, right? If we open here our folder, Pong full, and we grab and drop here in love, we are going to open, and we just faced a error, okay? So Windows, right? Okay, here it's not Windows, it's just window. Let's save, let's open again, and as you can see, we got a Canva, right? We don't have anything because we didn't draw anything in our Canva, but now we are going to draw something here, for example, hello Pong or hi Pong. So let's do it. And in this case, we are going to start some other function of love, which is function love.draw, okay? And this function, just like the name itself tells us, it's going to draw anything that we want in our screen. So the ball is going to come in this draw function, the pedals, anything that we write in the middle of our screen, right? And now to print a message in the middle of our screen, we can use love.graphics.printf, okay? Printf. And now we can put all of the values we want in here. So text, what is the text? We want X position, X and Y, limits and alignment. Okay, so the text can be, for example, hello Pong, okay, hello Pong. And then positions, X and Y. If you guys take a look here in CS50, we can see 2D coordinate system, okay? It's actually the coordinates that we want to use in our Canva with Lua. So we don't start just like the usual, X in the bottom here and Y going up, right? It's the opposite actually. X is like in the top line and then Y goes down. So you have to keep this in mind. So position, if you want to take here the top of our screen, we have to use position 0, for example. And then on position of Y, we want to take the middle of the screen. So you can use window height, right? Window height divided by 2, right? Which will be the whole length of the height of our window divided by 2. But since our font is like 12 pixels, for example, we have to do -6 pixels, okay? Because if we don't do this, our font will pass the middle of our screen because of the size of our font. So we do -6, half of the pixels of our font, and then everything is going to be in the middle. Now we want to take the number of pixels to center within our screen, which will be the window width, okay, window width, okay, and then what we want to do with this position window width, we want to center, right? We want to center our element, our hello Pong, in the middle of the window width, okay? This way we should have hello Pong in the middle of our screen, okay? We can end our function here. Let's run our Pong full here, and just like we can see, we have hello Pong here in the middle. Just like you guys can see, we don't have that look of an old and vintage game, right? Because the hello Pong is like with a high resolution and this kind of things. And now in Pong 1, we are going to learn how to give this look of a pixelized image or something older game, right? Well, now we are going to start Pong 1, which is, just like I said, pixelizing our looks. Okay, in this case, if you take a look here in Pong 1 and the low res update, we can see that we can use the push library to make it easier, right? If we have a library, we just don't have to code a lot of things to achieve our goal. So you can find this push library if you go here in Google, push library, and you put GitHub right after, you can see the first link here, a simple resolution handling library for love. Okay, and in this case we have already a code that someone did. This is actually what a library is. If you don't have to code everything that someone has already did again, you can just download the library from this code, okay, and you can use it. So let's get here in code, download zip, okay, and we are going to download this code. If we extract this, we can just take here the push.lua, okay, let's paste here inside of the Pong full folder, okay, push lua, right, and then put inside of Pong full. And then now we can import this library, which is in the same folder of our main.lua. So now let's get back here in VS Code, and then as you can see, we got inside of Pong, now we have push.lua, which is this whole library in here, and we don't have to code this all over again. We just have to import this library and use whatever we want to use. So here in the top, we can do, for example, push equals to require push, okay? This is actually almost the same thing as importing something in Python, for example. Import something from a library. For example, we can use push equals to require push, and in this way we are importing the library here in our code. Now we just have to create a virtual width and height, because since we want to pixelize everything, we can work with a canvas of 1280 and 720, but with a lower resolution. That's why we're going to create our virtual width, which can be, for example, 432, and our virtual height, okay, which can be 243, for example. Okay, now we have our virtual width and virtual height. How can we apply this into our canvas? Here in love.window.setMode, we can put before our original window width and window height our virtual width and height, which will be the resolution that our game will look like. Okay, so now we can put here first, before our original resolution, we can put here virtual width and virtual height. In this way we are going to execute the canvas with this resolution, but our game will run with this one. Pretty simple until now, right? But now we have to load the function from the push library, so we can pixelize everything. So just like I said, when we want to load something to the memory of our game, we have to use in the function love.load. So here before our window, we can load this. So our function will be love.graphics, okay, .set default filter, okay, and then we are going to put here, this way it will apply the filter based on our virtual width and height. Now just to finish applying our filter from the library push, we have to start this library in our love.draw. So we are drawing here hello Pong, and then before and after, everything that we are going to draw, we want to be in this filter. So we are going to start push, column, apply, and then we are going to give a start here, okay, and then in the end we are going to do just like you can imagine, we can do end. Okay, so we are starting our the appliance of our filter in here, and we are ending here in line 21. And then everything we want to draw, if I want the library to be applied, I just want to draw in between those two, start and end. Now we can run and we can see, I think we should have a problem. If we run here Pong full, yes, we have a problem. Yeah, the problem is because I just mistyped this nearest here. Let's try to run. Okay, one more problem, I just forgot here to change to window height and window width as well. To virtual width and virtual height, we want to change this as well. Otherwise, the position of our things, in this case the hello Pong, will be wrong, okay, because we are working with a virtual resolution, and then we are going to consider the canvas resolution. It don't make sense, right? So in order to our code initialize now, we have to create a new function, the function key pressed. Okay, so function love.key pressed, and then we can put here the value of key. So we have to give a value, in this case any key of our keyboard, to escape and quit our game. Otherwise it won't work, and then in the end we are going to manipulate this so we can give some other properties to our game. So if key equals escape, so if it's pressed, I want to love event.quit, okay? And then as always we have to end here, and we have to end here as well, and our if statement, and end our function, okay? Well, in this case our code is not going to work still, because we are using a function from love2d with values that a function from push should expect. In this case, we're trying to exchange the virtual width and height. It's the other way actually, right? Exchanging the window width and height with the virtual width and height. But it will not work because it's not this function that we are using that will convert this to us. It's a function from push. And this function should be push setup screen, okay? Just by changing this, we are giving the right function and the right values to exchange. Full screen and resizable maintains false, and vsync maintains true. We run our game now, Pong full, we can see that we got everything right. Our text is bigger now because we just reduced the resolution with the virtual width and height, and our text is not with that high resolution. It's like something a little bit more pixelized, and that's just what we wanted to achieve, okay? Now to start Pong 2, we are going to import a font, a different font, the font that you want, that you think it's cool, and then we are going to import and set our Hello Pong for that font. So you can open here Google, for example, the font, or any other website in which you can download free fonts. I'm going to get here pixel and bitmap fonts, which is the same purpose that we want, right? And I think this VCR or CD mono aqui, and I think this one right here should do the trick. Let's download this, I'm going to extract, and now we can take the TTF file, right? Let's put here inside of our Pong full folder as well, okay? And now I'm going to just rename it so we can access this font a little bit easier in our VS Code. So now we have inside of Pong full our font, in which you can choose which one you want to use. Now here in VS Code we can see the font.ttf, and now we should import this font. Where we should import this font? Of course in love.load, in which we can load everything that we want. So now first of all we can import this font. I'm going to call small font equals to love.graphics.new font. This is the function that we can use to import. Now we have to give the name of the file, in this case it's font.ttf, and then the size of the font. I'm going to give 8 pixels in this case, okay? So we have here we have the love graphics new font function to import the function. Just like you can see, everything that we import in this main load function, always use graphics when we are talking about fonts or some things that it's visible in our Canva, right? So now I just imported, and now I have to set the font so we can apply to our texts of our project, right? Set font, and then our variable small font, which I just stored our imported font. Now if we open our game, you can see that we have another font in here. It's a little messy, okay, but this will do. This font will do. It's like, I'm just going to put 12 here as size. Let's see. Yeah, now it's better. Hello Pong, now it's better. 8, I think it was too small. Now let's go to the next step, in which we are going to add a color to our Canva, okay? So just like you guys expect, we should do this in the love.draw function. And inside of here, let's do love.graphics, is like the expected, .clear. This function will clear our screen with the color that we want, and now we can give the values for this color. In this case, it can be 40, 255, 50 for example, 255, 60, 25, and let's put 0 here, for example, 255. You have to put this 255 or the program won't understand that you are talking about a parameter of colors, okay? Okay, I'm going actually to put 255 in here as well. If we run our game now, you can see that we got this color in here, and then you can actually play with the colors. You can change the values in here so you can achieve some other colors. Now let's create the petals and the ball, okay? Just like you expect. As well, we can create this in the draw function. Let's create right here after. I'm going to separate everything a space so you can keep track of what represents what. And then let's create the petals. We can create this using love.graphics as well, .rectangle, okay? And then we're going to give the mode, the position, X and Y, width and length, okay? So the mode will be fill in this case, because we want our rectangle to be filled with a color. In this case, the main color from Lua is white, okay? So if we do fill here, we don't want to put any other color. The main color will be set to white. Position X and Y. In this case, the first, we want it to be in the top left of our screen, okay? So I'm going to give 10 for X and 30 for Y, okay? Always remember, we just start counting between the top left point of our Canva, not the top bottom, okay? Now size, width and height, I'm going to give 5, for example, as width and 20 as height. Let's take a look here in our game. Now we can see that we have a petal here, the same position that we want. I could put a little bit more to the top, but I'm going to leave it here, okay? Well, now let's create the other petal, right? We can copy and paste the same configurations that we have in here. We want to fill as well our petal. Just the position that is going to change. We don't want in the top left, right? We want in the bottom right. And since we start And always keep in mind that our 2 zeros is in the top left, so we are going to use here in the positions our virtual width, okay, virtual width, minus 10 in this case, because we don't want the pedal glued to the wall, right? And virtual height in this case, let's put minus 30 as well, which is the same distance that we used in the first pedal, the left pedal. And then the size 5 of width and 20 of height as well, same thing. Let's open here Pong full, and we can see that the pedal is a little bit too low. Let's put minus 40, let's see, full, a little bit more still, a little bit, minus 50, let's see. Yeah, now it's better. I think we could put a little bit upper, but now it's actually pretty close. Now we have the 2 pedals, now we can draw the ball in the middle here. We can use actually the same thing, rectangle, but giving the same proportions of width and height, right, to get the same size. Let's paste here as well. Now let's give, for example, 4 by 4 to make a little square in the middle. Position will be virtual width divided by 2. In this case, just like we did with the position from Hello Pong. Remember that we did minus 6 because the height of our font was 12, and then we to be in the center, exactly in the center, we should do minus the pixels from the font. In here as well, we should do minus 2, and in here, height divided by 2 minus 2 as well. Okay, in this case, we are going to eliminate, disconsider the 2 pixels that makes the difference from the size of our ball. Now let's go to our Pong again. As you can see, we got the ball in the middle, but the Hello Pong is right in front of our ball, so we can just take the position X here from Hello Pong, the position Y actually, and instead of using virtual height, let's use 20, for example, from distance from the top. Okay, let's run now, and that's okay. We have Hello Pong in the top now, the ball in the middle, and the 2 pedals. Of course, we can't move the pedals or anything like that, but we are going to do that really soon with the update function. Okay guys, so now we are going to create the last main function, in this case, which is the update function, which comes before the draw function. So we are going to receive the load, we are going to load the data, and then we are going to update, and then we are going to draw, we are going to render what we just updated. And this is going to be a forever loop. So let's create the function love.update, okay, parentheses, save, and now we are going to give the first iteration, which is going to be the movement of the pedals. To give the movement to the pedals, we want to just change the position of the pedals in the axis Y, right? Because the pedals only move vertically. So how we can do this? We can change actually the position of Y, in this case virtual height minus 50, and we have 30 in here, for example, for the 2 pedals. We can change this for variables that we can change within the time or the iterations. So instead of giving fixed values, fixed positions in here to each pedal, we can create here in the load some other variables, okay? For example, player 1, which is the player from the left pedal, Y, okay? Player 1 in position Y, and player 2 position Y as well. So player 1 position Y will be equals to the same position that we gave in here, okay? 30, for example, but now we just have to change 30 here for the player 1 Y variable. Now we can change this variable anytime we want, and the value in here as well, in the love draw, will be changed as well. The same thing for the second pedal here, virtual height minus 50. Let's give this value in here, and then let's exchange our virtual height to player 2 in position Y. Okay, now we can do our love.update function, in which we are going to change the values of the player 1Y and player 2Y, depending on what is the action of the keyboard. So let's create this right now. Remember to give the value of delta here, because we are talking about movement, okay? And then we are going to create our first function in here, which is if love.keyboard.isDown. What isDown does is the same thing actually as love key pressed, for example. But in this case, if the key is pressed, we are going to do an action, right? So if love.keyboard is down with the key now W, for example, in this case we want to give W and S to the left pedal and the arrow up and down to the right pedal. So if W is pressed, then our variable player1y will be equals to player1y, okay? minus a value that we want to give as speed. In this case, we can create other variable here as well. For example, pedal underscore speed equals to 200, for example. And this speed we are going to multiply by delta, the value of delta, so we can have a fixed, a constant speed. So in this case, player 1, if the W is being held, player 1 will be, we want to do the position of player 1 minus, because if we're pressing W, our pedal is supposed to be up. But since the 0 starts in the top and is increased when we are coming down the position of Y, we want to decrease the position of Y, right? So player 1 minus our pedal speed multiplied by delta, okay? In this way, we are going to be updating the position of this pedal in each iteration. Else, if is the same thing, but the opposite, right? If we are holding the key S, we want to increase the pedal speed, the value of pedal speed in our Y-axis, right? So if we press S, then player 1 Y is going to be equals to player 1 Y, in this case plus the pedal speed multiplied by delta. Okay, now we just handled the W and the S, okay? Okay, let's end our loop in here, our if and else, and let's end our function. Okay, let's run our game. Expected to close at line 17, let me see. Okay, here line 17, I just put our variables from player 1 and 2 inside of this parentheses, and I cannot do that, it has to be outside. Let's run again. Yeah, now you can see, now if I press S and W, our pedal is moving, you know, a good speed, okay? But you can see that the pedal is passing here our limits, okay? But now let's give the movement for the right pedal as well, right? So now I'm going to put another if and else, the same thing, okay? But with our player 2, I can actually copy all of this and paste in here. But now our keys will be up and down, okay? And down. And then we're going to talk about the position of player 2, not player 1. Okay, so if I'm holding up, we are going to decrease the position of Y, the same thing that we did in there. Let's run, and as you can see, we got the movement from both of the pedals, okay? We're starting to get a big code in here. Now to just finish this Pong 3, let's put how many points each player have in the middle of our screen here. To do this, let's prevent that after all we are going to start counting the points of each player in each number. So let's put here another variable inside of love.load. I'm going to put player 1 score, okay? Player 1 score, let's start at 0, and player 2 score as well, let's start at 0 as well. Okay, so player 1 score, player 2 score, and now in love.draw, we can draw these scores in our screen. We can do love.graphics.print in this case, and now we can put what we want to draw. In this case is score, player 1 score, sorry, and then the positions. In this case I'm going to give virtual width, in this case divided by 2, let's take the middle, okay, divided by 2, let's do minus 50 for example, so we can, it's not in the middle, it's a little bit to the left, to the side of the first pedal, okay, and virtual height, I want a little bit above the middle, so let's do divided by 2 as well. No, actually divided by 4. Let's see where this print is going to stop. Let's open here. As we have a 0 in here, we just have to make the 0 a little bit bigger. And I'm going to tell you guys how we can do this. But first, let's create the other one. I think it's too far away from the middle. I'm going to give minus 30 in here. Let's create another one, right? Another score for player 2 with virtual width. In this case, divided by 2 instead of minus 30 plus 30, and in here divided by 4 as well. Let's run. Yeah, we can see it's not in the middle, but it's in a good position. I'm going to give here minus 20 and plus 20. Let's see again. Okay, it's good. Let's increase now the font, right? To increase our font, we can, just like we have loaded here, a small font, we can load another font, the same font but with a different size. Let's give, for example, 24 in here, 24, double of the size of the small font, and now we can put here, for example, score font. And how can we set each one to each text in our screen? We can copy here the moment that we set the font, and we can put right above our hello Pong, for example. Okay, set font here, and then let's put set font in here. Okay, and then let's change this to square font. If we run our game, you can see that we have the font from the punctuation a little bit bigger from the hello Pong, and just like that we can do this. I'm just going to give a little bit more, 36 for example. Let's run. Yeah, it's all right. I'm going to just try to centralize this a little bit more. Okay, so from the first punctuation I'm just going to give -10. Okay, no, I think -40 in here. Okay, now we can see that it's a little bit better. Okay, it's not everything centralized, but we can see that we have 0, 0, hello Pong, and our ball in the middle. Okay, so that's it for Pong 3. Well, so now to start Pong 4, we are going to delimitate our petals, right? So if you take a look, just like we've seen, our petals are moving, but they are passing the limit of our canvas, right? And this is not supposed to happen. So how can we do this? We can use the math, min, and max function to delimitate those positions. So we're going to get here in love.update where we did the if and else to the keyboard is down and is up with the keys that we want to play the game, the arrows up and down and W and S. In this case we're just going to change something in here. We are going to put the same thing. If love.keyboard.isDown W, then player1 will be equals to math.max, which in this case is like the maximum value that we can go up, which is the key W, right? And in here we are going to add one more variable. We are going to add the position that we want our pedal to go to, the maximum or to the minimum. So in this case 0, position 0, right? Because it's the top of our canvas. The same thing for this right here, but in this case it's not math max, is math min. Okay, and in this case we can use all the virtual height, let's say -20. In this case the same thing for the arrows up and down. Okay, let's copy this, paste in here. We can use 0 as well. Okay, and the same thing for math min. Okay, and in this case let's use the same thing again, virtual height -20. And just like that we are delimiting where our pedals should stop moving. Let's take a look now. If we run Pong, if we put our pedal up, it blocks on each, on the top and on the bottom of our canvas, in both of the pedals. So now we are delimiting our pedals to our canvas. Now let's do the movement to our ball, something a little bit more complicated, but we are going to use some math functions as well to give randomness to our ball, to the movement of our ball. So first of all, if we want to get a movement and we want to change this movement, we should do the same thing that we did with the pedals. We should take here in the love.draw our ball, which is this graphic right here, and then we shouldn't have a fixed X and Y. We should have variables in this case with the initial position, and then we should change this variable along the way. So let's create here, for example, in the side of player 1 and player 2, for example, right below, let's create ball Y, Y in capital, Y in capital, and ball X, okay? And then let me just exchange this so we are in the right order of the things, okay? So ball X will be equals to the position of the ball in X right here, and then we exchange this to ball X, ball, oh my god, ball X. Okay, and then we can paste in here the initial position, and the same thing for virtual height. Let's put ball Y. Okay, and now we have the same thing as before, but now we have variables, and in this way we can manipulate these variables through the game. Okay, so this is the first step, and now we should have put some randomness into the ball X and Y positions. Well, now we can import the random seed function in our code to have the accessibility to use the .random function in the position of our ball, because we want, once the ball touches the pedal or we restart the game, we want the ball to go to a random direction. So let's import here in love.load, let's import our function math.random seed, right, parentheses, os.time, parentheses. Okay, this is a function to import the random seed into our code. Okay, now we can use the .random function to give this randomness to our ball. So let's create right here ball dx, for example, which is delta, just like our pedal, right? So we are saying that we are giving velocity and movement to the ball equals to math.random, and then we are going to put inside of the parentheses 2, just like a coin. Okay, you have two faces, and we want just one part of this 2 coins, and we want a period of possibilities in between this flip of coin. So we can put between 100 or negative 100. In this way we are going to have a lot of possibilities to our position X of the ball. Now let's give ball dy as well, okay, equals to math.random. And now let's give right away some value as well. You can do both of the ways. This math.random takes a period of values between the first and the second value. So we are going to take between -50 until 50 positive. But you can use this way, just like flipping a coin and choosing one of the sides, but giving a period of time, or you can use just like this, just like we did in here. Just like I said, Pong is a problem that you can solve the things in different ways, give different colors, different speeds. I don't need to give here, for example, in the paddle speed just 200, I can put a little bit more, and the paddle will move a little bit faster, for example. So now we have ball dx and ball dy, we have like this randomness, and now we have to manage this. Now let's give the logic of starting and stopping our game, so the ball go any direction randomly. So now in love.load again, let's put a game state, so we know when we should start or stop the game, or reset the game. So game state equals to start, for example. Okay, now we have the game state start, and this game state start will not be the state of playing the game. It will be the state in where the ball is in the middle of the screen, and we have to press return or enter to start. So now we have the game state set. Let's get here in the love.update, and then we are going to create an if and else to set our game state if it's set to play, and then we are going to start playing the game. So if game state equals play, then we are going to get the movement, the random movement of the ball. So ball x will be equals to ball x plus ball dx, which is the random movement, multiplied by delta. Okay, now we have the random movement, the position of the ball itself, the randomness of the movement of the ball, multiplied by delta, which will give this speed to our ball. The same thing for ball y equals to ball y plus ball dy multiplied by delta. Okay, the same thing as in the first line in here. So if our game state is play, yes, start the game, we are going to get this random movement of the ball. So now we have the game state start and the game state play. Now let's draw what we want to draw in our screen. So now we have the game states that we want, start when the game is not started yet, and then play when we want to get the ball rolling to our canvas randomly, right? Now let's give some values to our key pressed, which is the function we created. So if we press a key, the game starts, or if we press a key again, the game ends. So let's change this function, love.keyPressed. We just typed if key equals escape, then love event quit. This was something we needed to do, so our game worked after we used the push library, right? But now let's complete this with the game states. So now the key escape will continue in here, and now we are going to create an else if key equals enter or return, and in this right here you can put any key that you want to start the game. Okay, so enter or return, then I just forgot to put a key equals as well here. So else if key equals enter or key equals return, then we want to start our game, right? But the game state is already at start, so you want to get to the game state play, right? So if game state equals start, then we want our game state to be equals to play. Okay, just one equals in here. Else we want this button, else we want this button to set the game state to start again. If the game is rolling, if we are at game state start play, we want to press enter or return and reset the game and start all over again. So that's it in here. And after this if and else if, inside of this else, if we are in the game state start, we press the key again, and we are going to give restart the game and give this randomness again to the ball. So now we have to paste everything that we did in here as well. Right after the game state play, we want to trigger all of these commands, so our ball starts moving with a random position. Okay, let's take a look in our game. Okay, now if you press enter or return, in this case it's not starting. Let me take a look. Right here it's not key passed, it's key pressed, right? Okay, so now it should work. actually. Let's try again. Return. Yes, there we go. If we press return, our ball will randomly start rolling into the screen. Okay, we can press return again, so it restarts, and we can see that the ball starts going to random directions. That's exactly what we want. But as you can see, we don't have collision with the borders yet, and we don't have collision with the petals. Just like you can see, the ball just runs out of the screen. So first of all, let's change our message in the middle of the screen. So right now we are drawing here in the love.draw the phrase "Hello Pong," right, on top and in the center of our Canva. But we are going to print, for example, play Pong, start Pong actually if our game state is start, and play Pong if we are playing our game, if our game state is equals to play. Okay, so how can we do this? We can create an if and else. So if game state equals play. Okay, so if our game is stopped, we are going to print play Pong. Okay, play Pong. Okay, in the same position on top of our Canva in the center. Okay, and now we can do the same thing but using else if game state is start. Actually, I just confused some things here. If game state is equals to start, then we are going to display start Pong because we want to press return or enter to restart the game. Else, if the game is rolling, if game state equals to play, we can put play Pong. And there we go. If depending on the game state, we're going to change the phrases. Let's test. Oh, sorry, I have to close my function in here. Okay, now it should work just fine. Let's start our game. Starting the game, so play Pong. When we stop the game, start Pong. We can see this change of phrases in the top. Okay, now on Pong 5, we should use object-oriented, so we can put our ball and petals inside of classes, so we can use remove a lot of those lines that we have in here, and it's easier to read. But in this case, just like I said in the beginning of the class, because I know a lot of you guys don't know how to use, and it will be very difficult to remove a lot of those properties we just set in here and put inside of classes, and then returning in names of classes in our original code. So I'm going to conclude our game just by writing the other things. Okay, so in Pong 6 right away we can add our FPS on top, on the top left of our Canva. So to do this, we need to create a function for displaying this FPS. So let's create a new function here in the middle. Okay, so function display FPS. In this case, that's just the name of the function. Let me put this function here in the end of our code, for instance, and now let's create our properties. The first property will be the color, so we can use love.graphics.setColor parentheses, and then we can put the values of red, green, blue, and alpha. So I'm going to put, for example, 0, 1 for green, 0, and 1 for alpha. So our color will be green. Okay, now let's set a font size. In this case, we are going to use the same font size that we used for the messages play Pong and start Pong. In this case, small font. Okay, and now we are going to set the position. Now we're going to set the message and the position that we want. In this case, love.graphics.print, and then we're going to write our text, which will be FPS, and then we can use double dots, toString, and then we're going to use a function to get the FPS of our game, which will be love.timer.getFPS. Okay, parentheses again, close the other parentheses, and then we can put only the positions that we want. In this case, I'm going to put on X, I'm going to put 40, for example, and on Y, I'm going to put 20. And we can see now how it's actually working. First of all, we created just the function. Now we have to draw actually our FPS in our screen. In order to do that, we can get here in love.draw, just like I said, and we can just call the function display FPS. This way we are going to display just with the configuration we set here, you are going to display in the Canva. Okay, let's save and run our Pong so we can see. Oh, sorry, I think I just forgot to close my function, just like I thought. And never forget to close your functions on Lua. And now you can see FPS. It takes a little bit of time to get the final FPS, and then you can start playing and your FPS will be in there. It can change depending on your hardware, depending on your computer, but in general Pong is very light to be running on every computer. But there you have Pong 6, which is just displaying the FPS. Let's go to Pong 7. Now on Pong 7 we are going to set the collision with the pedals and collision with the borders of our Canva. So to do this is pretty simple, just have to write here in our love.update. Let's start writing here at the end. Okay, let's start another function here, and it's not actually a function, it's just an if and else. So if the position of ball in position X is less or equals than 10, so in this case we are going to set the collision for the pedal of the left, the pedal of the first player. The width of our pedal is 5, but it's 5 pixels away from the border from the left. We are going to put 10. So if the ball passes this 10 pixels of border, we are not considering collision anymore, because the ball just passed the pedal. So if this happened and the position of the ball in position Y is more or equals than the position of the player 1Y, which is the position of our pedal, and if the position of ball in the vertical is less or equals as well than the position of the pedal in position Y plus 20, because the size of our pedal vertically is 20, then we want to invert the direction of the ball. So if the ball is coming in this way and the pedal is here, we want the collision with the pedal, when we want to revert the side of this ball. So we are going to pick the ball dx, which is the acceleration of the ball, and revert this into a negative or positive direction depending on what side our ball is running for. So let's put ball dx will be equals to math.abs of ball dx. Okay, so math.abs will actually change this into an absolute value, which will be positive. So if the ball is coming this way into the first pedal, we are decreasing the pixels on our x, right, on our horizontal. And then when it collides with the pedal, we want it to revert and then start adding to our position x. That's why you can use math.abs. And if it's the opposite, we can do the same thing, but with the other direction. So if ball x capital less or equals then the position of our pedal, in this case virtual height minus 15, including the position of our pedal, in this case virtual width, minus the size of the width of our pedal and the distance from the pedal and the wall, in this case 15 pixels. Okay, and now the same thing, and ball position y, position y more or equals than player 2 position y, okay, and ball position y less or equals than player 2 in position y plus 20 in the same way, right, because the height of our pedal is 20. And then we can do the same thing, ball dx, our ball will invert direction, so in this case we can do negative math.abs of ball dx, of the position x of the ball in movement. Okay, in this case we are delimiting what we want. Let me close our if and else here, and in this case we are delimiting our pedals. So if the ball reaches the pedal, it will be deflected in the other way, but if we pass the position of this pedal, we are going to count points for each side. Okay, and now we can do the collision of the borders as well. And in this case, to get the collision from the borders, from the top, it's easier. We don't have to get the collision from the left and the right, because this collision will mean, after all, that we are going to count a point and restart the game. So we just have to get the collision from up and bottom. And this way we can get the position Y of the ball. So just like we did before, if ball in position Y is less or equals than 0, or ball in position Y as well is more or equals than our virtual height, this means what? If the ball passes or is equals to the virtual height, we are going to deflect in the same way. So if it's in the top, in this case equals, or it's more or equals than 0, or it's in the bottom, in this case more or equals than the virtual height, then we want to deflect the direction of the ball as well. So ball in position Y, the same thing will be equals, so ball actually dy will be equals to, we can do minus ball dy. Okay, in this case we are deflecting in the same way that we did with the pedals. We are deflecting the direction of the ball once the ball reaches the top or the bottom of our Canva. Now we just have to copy this and paste inside of our update function, otherwise it won't work. Okay, so we have our function update. Right after this game state, let's paste as well those directions and limits. Okay, let's end our if in here, and now let's test. if we get our Pong full. Take a look. Now if we run our game, let's take a look. So we have an error. So in line 62, then expected near and capital. Okay, so here, okay, I write it and in capital. It has to be in lowercase. Now let's save and run again. Okay, let's start our game now. And our paddles should delimitate the ball and the top and the bottom of our canvas. Let's start. If it reaches, you can see that it reached the paddle, but we can see that the ball is passing a little bit. Okay. So you can see that the paddle from the left is working, but the paddle from the right is not working. So you can take a look at what's going on. You can see that our paddle is reaching way too far. Okay, so let's see what's happening. Okay, so I just found out what was wrong in our code. So if you take a look in the code from the right paddle in here, we are saying that ball, position of ball in X is less or equals than virtual width minus 15. But in this case, we should put more or equals than virtual width, because our ball is traveling to the right paddle. So we are increasing the position of width. So if it passes our total virtual width minus 15, and then our ball should be reflected. Okay, we should exchange those signs in here. So let's take a look now in our game. Start playing, and now the collision is good. Okay, just the left paddle that the ball is passing a little bit our paddle. The ball is getting inside of our paddle. Okay, so I'm going to increase here to 15 as well. So if it's less or equals than 15, then we're going to deflect the ball. Let's try again. Now we should deflect the ball a little earlier. Yes, just like expected, now the ball is deflecting pretty nice. Let's take a look now. If the ball hits the top of our screen, what happens? Okay. If it will be deflected as well. Just like you can see, we got the collision with the border as well. Okay, so that's it. Let's take a look in this bottom as well. You can see that it is colliding. Okay, so that's it. We just done the collision with the paddles and with the top and the bottom. Well, now in the last Pong of our problem, we're going to get the punctuation. We're going to add points to each of the players. So just like you guys remember, we have the player 1 and player 2 score set to 0. But we have those scores in two variables. So you can manipulate those variables here in the love.update. So in here, in game state that we done before, if game state equals to play, then we are going to get this random movement of the ball. With this random movement of the ball, if the ball reaches a determined point, we are going to add a punctuation. So inside of this if, we are going to add one more if. So if ball X is less or equals than 0, then we are going to add 1 point. So player 1 score will be equals to player 1 score plus 1. Okay, the same thing for player 2, but in this case, if the ball position X of the ball is more or equals than virtual width minus 5, it can be just virtual width, but let's get virtual width minus 5. So else if ball in position X is more or equals than virtual width minus 5, then our player 2 score will get 1 point. So player 2 score will be equals to player 2 score plus 1. Okay, so in this way we are delimitating. So if the ball passes the paddle and reaches the limits of our right or left canvas, we are going to punctuate depending on which side of our canvas the ball passed. And if this happens, what we want to do, we want to reset the ball. So we are going to use the function here, reset ball. Okay, the same thing for both of the scenarios, both of the players. With this reset ball function, we have to create the properties of this reset ball function. So let's create down here the function reset ball. Okay, and then let's give some properties. So in this function, the position of our ball will be in the middle. So again, ball X will be equals to virtual width divided by 2 minus 2, just like we had in the first position, and ball Y will be equals to virtual height divided by 2 minus 2 as well. Okay, and this way we are going to start our game. Oops, I forgot to close the function here. Okay, now let's run. Okay, so if we start our game, let's check the paddles. We have the collisions. Okay, FPS in the top left of our screen. Let's take a look if we get the point. Okay, so the player gets the point. But in this case, we have just something wrong in here. As you can see, if it crosses the right wall, we punctuate, we get a point for the person on the right, but we should get the point for the player 1, okay, because the mistake was from the person on the right. So we can change this by getting in the punctuation in here. So if the ball reaches this point, then the player 2 gets the score. If the ball reaches the right wall, gets to the right wall, then the player 1 is going to get 1 point as score. We just changed this dynamic. So in here, since it was a mistake from player 1, player 2 gets the point. The same thing for the other side, okay? Okay guys, so we finished here, the Pong lecture. Actually, we just did here the structure, the basic structure of the Pong from CS50 games that CS50 teaches from the Pong lecture. But the problem set itself, problem set 0, asks us to do something different. If we take a look here in CS50 on the Pong page, we can see that the problem set 0 tells us to, you can click here in project 0, submit Pong. And if you guys take a look in this page, you can read that the objectives of the problem set is read and understand all of the Pong source code from lecture 0, which is the problem we just did, and implement a basic AI for either player 1, player 2, or both. Okay, so the goal is to implement AI that moves both of the pedals by itself, so the pedals play with each other, the AI play with each other, so you just initialize the game and watch the AI playing, or you can automate only one pedal, so you can play with one pedal against the computer, let's say. So if you take a look, here the specifications, they just ask exactly this that I just said. You have to implement a AI to the position of the pedal, the position Y, the vertical movement of the pedal, of one or both pedals to play against you or to play against each other. The AI play against the AI. You have some other info in here, but in general, we can use to this problem set the same code that we worked in here, but we have to implement some other things, especially here in the love.update function, to get this automated movement. So let's start this now. In order to do this, we can actually keep the movement of the up and down keys. Okay, we can use these up and down keys, but let's give the AI movement. So I'm going to separate here our game state from our punctuation functions in here, or punctuation logic. And in the middle of this blank space, I'm going to create the logic of the pedal to move by itself. So first of all, let's create the positions. We are going to get the position from the center of the pedal and the center of the ball in position Y. And then we are going to implement a code so the pedal follows this Y position of the ball. So the pedals moves automatically according to the position of the ball. So let's create first the center of the pedal, of the ball actually. So in here, let's create if ball dx, so if ball is at movement, so if ball dx is greater than 0, then we're going to implement our code. So in here, let's create local, okay? Let's say target y, okay? Target y equals to the position of the ball in the axis y, in the position y, plus 5 in here to compensate the size of the ball, for example. And to give some randomness, okay? We don't necessarily need to collide the ball with the middle of the pedal from the AI. We can collide a little bit to the right or to the left of the pedal. So now we have the position of the ball, okay? Now we can create the middle of the pedal, or a little bit to the right or a little bit to the left. Let's create center of Y, for example, and let's get the position of our the position Y of our pedal plus 10, okay? Since the height of our pedal is 20, let's get the center for now, okay? And then we are going to get the difference of those two variables, okay? To see if the target of Y, the position of the ball, minus the center of the pedal is negative, then we know which side our pedal should move. If it's positive, then we know the other side the pedal should move, negative or positive. So let's create local. Let's call, for example, delta Y, because it's going to give movement to our pedal, this variable, and then target Y minus center of Y, okay, minus, not equals. So now let's implement the if and else to get the logic of the movement to our pedal. So first of all, let's create a smoothness. So if our ball is close to the pedal, we are going to smooth the movement of our pedal, okay? So it doesn't move right away fast and then stops right away. So let's create a math.abs, we have already worked with this, and then let's use the movement of the ball dx, okay? And then let's use delta y, which is the difference of position from the ball and the pedal, okay? And then if this movement is less than the pedal speed times delta movement, okay? So if the position is less than the movement of the pedal itself, then we're going to reduce this movement of the pedal, so it gives this little smoothness, okay? Let's create, of course, an if here. So if this happens, then player 2 in position y will be equals to the value of target y minus 10, okay? So the value of the movement from the ball minus 10. In this way, the pedal of if it's too close to our pedal, the movement of the pedal slows down according to the movement of the ball. Okay, and now we can do the rest of the things. Okay, else if, now we are going to give this movement, this automated movement exactly. Okay, so if delta of y is less than 0, then we are going to get our pedal up. Okay, then player 2 in this case, y will be equals to mathmax. Let's use mathmax in here so we can use the limit of our canvas still, which is 0 in the top, and then will be equals to the velocity, our player 2y, minus our pedal speed multiplied by delta, okay? In this case, we are going to reduce the position of player 2y, so we are going to move our pedal up, okay? With the limit of 0 from the canvas, that's why we used mathmax, okay? Else if, again, if delta of y is more than 0, then we're going to do the opposite. Then player 2 y will be equals to math.min in this case. And I just saw that I did a terrible mistake in every single if and else. I think I'm working with Python, but I'm not. We cannot use. We have to use then after an if and else. Okay, now it's good. So player 2 math.min. In this case, we are going to get the bottom of our canvas as limit, so virtual height. Yeah, it can be virtual height, okay? The entire virtual height as limit. Then player 2 in position y plus the pedal speed multiplied by dt, okay? In this case, our pedal is going down, right? So in this way, let's fix the else if in here. And in this way, we should have an automated movement to our pedal, okay? We are automating, so if the position of the center of the ball is more than 0 or less than 0, we are going to move the pedal according to this. And then we just gave some smoothness to this movement using the pedal speed. If the position of the ball is less than the pedal speed, then we are going to slow down a little bit, okay? There we have it. You can change as well the pedal speed. If you want to the pedal of the AI be a little slower or a little faster, you can create some other variable, just like we did with pedal speed in here, for example, AI pedal speed, and then you can change those variables in here, okay? Pedal speed in here, pedal speed in here. You can change and slow down or get the game a little faster to the AI pedal. Okay, so getting back, I just fixed it here, the indentations of our code. So I just separated the game state from our logic of points, okay? Point for player 1 and player 2. And then I just make this logic of play, and then the movement, the automated movement of our pedal, and then the score. It's not mandatory to have this order of things, but I just put in this way to keep more organized. So here we have all the logic that we just did. Let's run our game now and take a look. So as you guys can see, the pedal just goes to the center with the ball. If we press return or enter, you can see that the pedal is following the ball, okay? Just like you can see, it accelerates, and then once it reaches one point of the ball, it decelerates, okay? It's a little bit smooth, but as you can see, it's following the ball. I'm just playing with one hand, controlling the left pedal, and the right pedal, the AI is controlling by itself. And this way, you can play by yourself with the AI. You can slow down a little bit the movement of the pedal, or you can make it faster. You can implement the same logic for the other pedal, the left pedal, if you want, but you don't have to. It's more fun if you play with the computer, with an AI. You play against the AI. So in this way, pretty simple like that, we can solve the Pong problem set, okay, instead of just doing the lecture. Okay, we have this big code now. So in Pong you have some other Pongs to do. Since you guys saw in the beginning of the video, you have 12 Pongs to do. We stopped in here because the only thing that we can do now in Pong is adding sound effects and this kind of things. But we're going to stop in here because to do so, it would be easier if we made those classes with object-oriented. We didn't do this in our project, so it's simple and easier. We are not going to do the sound effects. We are going to stop in here, but you can see that we have a full Pong, a game that we can play with a second person or with ourselves. Okay, we have the collisions, we have the points to the game, we have the FPS, and we have everything to play the game. Okay, so, but actually that's it for our problem. Okay, if you have any doubts about this problem, you can leave a comment here in the comments below. If you want to have one-on-one mentoring from us, you can schedule your free meeting, and I expect to see you guys in some other videos of CS50 games. See you soon, bye bye.